Captain's Log, Stardate 55129.8. I am exceedingly proud of the work that my crew have done since our arrival here in the BC 517 system 5 days ago. Our medical staff, led by Dr Ireela, has performed miracles, saving the lives of so many gravely injured during the Nelson's disastrous flight through the gateway. Our engineering crews have been working around the clock to effect repairs to the broken hull of the Nelson itself, and have once more made it safe for habitation. Although, without a warp core and missing a nacelle, the venerable Excelsior will be staying put, at least for now. Today, however, we will be starting a new chapter in this expedition into the Bermuda Cluster. The USS Auckland will be leaving us, at least temporarily, returning to Deep Space 3 with the majority of the crew of the Nelson, including those most gravely wounded in the incident. In fact, only a skeleton crew will remain aboard the Nelson itself, which, until more extensive repairs can be effected, will be acting as something of a stationary outpost here in BC 517. Before the Auckland's departure, however, my senior staff will be accompanying me over to the Nelson itself, where a memorial service to those lost will be taking place. We find ourselves, as we open, in the large, wide space of the USS Nelson's shuttle bay, chosen as the venue for this memorial, so that any who would like to attend are able to do so. And quite a crowd has gathered to pay their respects, and say their farewells to lost comrades, friends, partners, and more. Most of the remaining crew of the Nelson is present, excepting only those whose medical condition still renders them unable to. Captain Richards faces her crew, herself gravely injured in the disaster and currently healing under the supervision of Dr Ireela. She remains seated in a medical support chair, only a day or so out of surgery, and with 2 broken legs still recuperating, despite the wonders of 24th century medical science. To one side stand the senior staff of both the Tenzing and the Auckland, heads bowed respectfully, and in the centre of the shuttle bay, on a launch platform, sits a single, empty photon torpedo casing, its gloss-black exterior etched with the names of all 247 crew lost in the disaster, and its immediate aftermath. A symbolic focus to the day's ceremony, as the crew as one may lay their lost comrades to rest among the stars. A moment of collective grief and mourning. A moment to say goodbye. Captain Richards, flanked by the remaining members of her senior staff, Dr. Sattel, Lieutenant Commander Garcia, and Lieutenant Commander Scassol, maneuvers her support chair to the podium and clears her throat. An expectant and emotion-filled hush falls across those assembled.
Thank you all for coming. We are gathered here today to pay our respects to our honoured dead, here at the end of the journey which they gave their lives to see us complete. It's hard to put into words the scale of this loss, and the feeling of grief which I find myself engulfed in, and I know you must also be feeling. There is not a single one among us today that has not lost someone with whom they shared a connection. Trusted colleagues, respected mentors, cherished confidants, from the newest of acquaintances to the oldest of friends. Brothers, sisters, comrades, all of us one. All of us Starfleet. All of us crew of the Nelson. 247 of our friends are gone. 247 faces, laughs, smiles, frowns, all of the little things that made them unique and cherished, gone. I urge you all, no matter how isolated and alone you may think you are, no matter how adrift the passing of those closest to you may make you feel, to know that you are not alone. You never have been, and you never will be. We have each other. I urge you to speak to one another about our lost friends. Share stories, share memories, look back fondly on the times you spent together. A life in Starfleet is not a life without danger. Each of us embarked upon this journey with open eyes, not afraid of what we may face among the stars, but eager to experience it, to push the boundaries of knowledge and see what is out there. For our friends for whom we gather today, this journey is over, but perhaps just beginning. They would not want their parting to dim the same fire of curiosity which burns within all of us, which brought us together and which drives us ever onwards. No one is truly gone, so long as they are remembered. We will remember them. We will remember their sacrifice. Thank you.
I think for everyone gathered here, there is a fairly palpable atmosphere of mourning and sort of quiet reflection. There's no feeling here of just going through the motions at all. It's very much like a community fully in mourning. Everyone's very present in the in the moment. I think memorial services aboard starships are probably not an infrequent event by and large, but this one is obviously weighty in the sort of scale of the loss of life that's precipitated it. I think for those of you who served in the Dominion War, which is all three of you gathered here with the rest of the senior staff from the Tenzing and the Auckland, this certainly brings back some tough memories, some tough recollections of those who didn't make it through the war. I think as much as you find your thoughts drawn to any moments you may have shared with those members of the Nelson crew who were lost, you can't help but reflect on those whose memorials you previously attended. I think of the three of you, Ireela, you'll be finding this, I don't want to say tougher than the others, just that with your empathic powers, you're acutely aware of all the strong emotions in the room right now.
It's going to be very draining.
Yeah, and I think a lot of what Captain Richards is saying in her speech about everyone here losing someone is ringing true in what you're feeling. It's definitely like it's not being hidden. People are expressing their grief, but I think you and any other empaths and telepaths in the room are kind of uniquely placed to sort of feel the amount of grief in the room at the moment, sort of thing. And yeah, it's a little hard to shut out, I will say. So the service continues. There's some brief speeches from other members of the Nelson's crew. Some, I think, are just sort of sharing recollections of their lost comrades. Some humorous, some less humorous, but still a remembrance. Some are, I think, like Captain Richards, kind of extolling the idea of like coming together as a ship in their moment of sadness. I think there's a rather poignant poetry reading. But the service itself, I think, culminates with the launching of the torpedo casing, which, as I said earlier, has been engraved with the names of all those lost. Now, we're in the hangar bay for this service, obviously, but I think, nonetheless, this isn't a torpedo that's being fired out of the weapon systems. I think it's being quite respectfully and sort of sedately picked up by the ship's tractor beams and released to float away into space, presumably to find its own orbit around the gas giant which the ships are currently in the vicinity of. As all those assembled watch it begin to drift away, the sun rises from behind the curve of the planet, and the torpedo is silhouetted against the distant but warm glow of dawn. I guess all of that being said then, are there any thoughts that those of you who are at the service, that's Ireela, Rai, Murphy, what are your characters thinking? What are you kind of feeling throughout this whole thing? Obviously, this, as I said, is sort of reminiscent of a lot of other memorial services that your characters have been through over the years. I just wanted to know what you're thinking.
I think Rai is not unfeeling about it, but he's been to so many memorial services for people that he's worked with, friends he's known who have passed on, so he's just kind of going through the motions with this one. While he acknowledges that it's a sad time, it's not it's not a shock to him that this has happened because, in Starfleet things can happen, whether you're in wartime or not. Accidents happen, things go wrong, you lose people. But he's just there. He's there as a kind of... He's showing his respect, he's being respectful of the whole thing, but he doesn't really feel... He's not outwardly showing any feeling about it because after all these years, he's kind of numb to the occasion.
Right. Okay.
And I know that sounds like he doesn't care about it, but it's like he's been to so many of these.
Yeah. Okay. I suppose you hadn't worked with many of these people very much. I know that shouldn't sort of enter into it too, really. But I suppose, like you say, in context, you've got more of a sort of, oh, here we are at another one kind of feeling than some people do. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Yeah, absolutely. Because he's lucky to have outlived a lot of people, but it's also kind of like, I can't really feel one way or the other about this. It's just, it's another memorial service. People die. It's sad, but we have this meeting and then we move on, sort of thing. Ray's respectful, but he's not majorly emotional, regardless of the fact he didn't work with these people. It's a sad time, but he's not as emotionally connected with it because he's been to so many over the years.
I think in contrast to that, Murphy's a little bit more emotional about it.
Because of what happened during the war?
Not just because of that. I think also because if it could have been us. It could have been our ship. It could be that this was her attending Ray's funeral or Ireela's funeral kind of thing. Like, it could have been our ship, and she'd have lost her friends in a way. So she's kind of like grateful and like relieved that it's not them, but also incredibly guilty and sad for the people that have passed and things. So she's a bit like, it could have easily been us.
It very nearly was.
I think especially with Ray having his medical and host and symbiote stuff going on, it's already, Murphy's kind of already like, she nearly lost one of her friends already recently, so she's like, oh, we all could have been dead.
Yeah, sort of brought it home a little bit. Yeah.
Oh, you care about Ray?
They're buddy. They spilt blood together. Been in foxholes together.
Yeah. Probably drunk Rancherino together.
No, she won't give him her coffee. No.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, Murphy doesn't share.
There are some lines.
Murphy will share in personal trauma, in dangerous missions, but the coffee, get your own.
Unless you get those beans yourself, do all you need to do to get that perfect Ractigino, she's not going to bat an eyelid.
Your friendship means a lot to me too.
Everything else, fair game.
I think it's probably safe to say, Ireela, that stood sort of as you are with the rest of the senior staff, you're kind of picking up on these sort of slightly differing emotions from your colleagues as well. And I think there's quite a sort of a different, like throughout the whole room, there's a mixture of feelings, because everybody's kind of sorting through things differently.
I think a lot of it will still be shock.
Yeah, for sure.
Because even if it's something you experience frequently, or did experience frequently in the war, this isn't war. This is a freak incident that just came out of nowhere. So, along with the grief, there's going to be quite a lot of other things mixed in. I think it's going to be a bit more complicated for the survivors from the Tenzing to work through.
I think the wider context as well of like you say, that this isn't in wartime, I think at this point it's been a couple of years since the war ended, but the whole kind of movement towards doing things like this expedition is that Starfleet's like going, right, okay, time to be hopeful again, time to explore again, time to not be on a war footing. And this was one of the first major kind of like we're boldly going where we haven't been before, kind of things.
And then
again,
it just
immediate
crashed.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of maybe affecting, like, I don't know, say affecting the mood, but it's kind of a bit of a it's a little bit of a downer on what maybe up to this point the expedition had quite a hopeful kind of feeling to it of like, we're going somewhere to see things that people haven't seen.
Mm-hmm.
And then before you've even arrived at like the first part of that, there's this horrible kind of horrible incident.
It's injected a lot more solemnity and concern rather than, oh, I wonder what interesting things we're going to find.
Yeah, it's sort of put a lot of things into perspective, at least temporarily, I think, for people, and sort of made the kind of immediate feeling of, you know, kind of hope and excitement about the exploration is all of a sudden made to feel like, at least now during the service, is not the time to be thinking about that kind of thing. I think the service itself is important enough that it's being broadcast to those who can't be here. It's very much a Nelson focused memorial service. Nobody really, you know, as much as the Tenzing did take a sidelong hit from the string as you dodged past it, pretty much everybody's back on their feet, and there were no deaths. There were, you know, a couple of major injuries as we explored at the time, but nothing lasting, I think. So it's a very Nelson focused event kind of thing, but it's an important enough event for the other ships in the expedition that I think it's being made viewable, I think, to anybody who wants to tune in on board the Tenzing and the Auckland. So now I think might be a time to actually check in with somebody who I think might be watching it. Although feel free to say, nope, I'm not doing that.
Oh, he very much is. Johnny is sat solemnly in his quarters. I don't know if Bonge is around, but
I think Bonge, maybe Bonge and Pherea, I think, are maybe watching it with you.
And yeah, just being quietly kind of taking it in, not really talking so much, I don't think.
You personally sort of, I think the trio of you have been, you know, you've been working on the outside of the Nelson since, but like this has kind of brought it back to a kind of more of a, I guess more of a sort of personal effect. You know, it's easy to sort of go, well, we've got some things that needed fixing, but now this is suddenly you're watching a memorial for, you know, the people kind of thing.
Yeah, hard not to have thoughts that these things are always around the corner and this is what it's like in Starfleet, kind of crossing his mind. But if it's coming to a conclusion, then I suppose Johnny will turn to Bonge and Pherea and say, well, that was a respectful service, and I don't know about you, but it really puts things in perspective for me.
Yeah, certainly does. Did you know anybody on the ship, Johnny?
No, none of the people that passed, thankfully.
I did.
Oh?
There's a few from my class. An engineer and a pilot.
Did you know them well?
Safi was from Beta Side, and Aaron was from Vulcan. He was pretty serious as a pilot. Safi was good fun, though.
Oh, well, I'm very sorry to hear that you lost people, some friends. Well, here's to them.
Thanks, Johnny.
Yeah.
Well, what's the rest of the day hold? We can't sit around just moping, I suppose.
My shift starts in the next half hour. I'm gonna head off and get ready for that. I'll see you later, Bonge.
See you later. Have a good shift.
And Pherea's just gonna like mosey on out quite sadly. She's like, yeah, some of my classmates, okay. It's fine. We'll go back to work. It's
okay. So yeah, Pherea leaves the room.
Well, what is today for Johnny? I mean, at this point, this is my usual question.
Yeah, and I never think it through beforehand.
Today?
Maybe it's like your full day off. Like, you've all been quite busy the last few days.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think the ship in general. I'm not saying everybody on the ship's got the day off. I just think maybe
I'd imagine with like the emergency and everything that it makes sense that they would get like a full day rest while the next shift kind of I'd imagine because of all the repairs and that they've had to do and stuff, they've had to like make an extra shift pattern maybe, or like adjust the shift pattern. So it could be that they're like on like their
yeah. I think as well. Again, we always get into like shift patterns, don't we? But I think maybe it would be a thing that like people would get like a full day off, a couple of days a week. So maybe today is just Johnny and Bonge's full day off.
Cool. Well, we got a day off, Bonge.
And we do.
And I don't know about you, but I'm not feeling like I've been too strenuous for a change. You feel like a casual walk around, just see what's going on today?
Yeah, I could go for a mosey.
Ah, great. Well, let's do a lap of the deck and then see where we feel like going from there.
Sure, yeah. Lead the way.
We'll head out.
All right, so the pair of you leave your quarters, and stepping out, you are on deck 9.
Hey.
Which I don't think I've given a full rundown in an episode of what's on deck 9. It's a lot of crew quarters and there's a few crew lounges that are just sort of, obviously you've decided 10 forward is your like preferred like hangout, but like there are lounges on every deck pretty much that are just, a lot of them are kind of just small kind of like living room sized chill areas where people can kind of gather and talk and things and stuff and such. But yeah, there's a couple of them on the deck. The kind of main entrance level for stellar cartography is on deck 9 as well. I don't think that would be a place you could go casually to check out. Same for the main computer core access that's on this level, and same for the impulse engine reactors that are on this level. And there's some science atmospheric systems labs. Again, it's not a very leisure-focused deck, really, but this just happens to be where your quarters are. But yeah, if you fancied a stroll around the deck, you can go right ahead.
Yeah, we'll have a wander and just sort of say hello to anybody that might be coming out to start the day, or we'll just see who's around mostly. And maybe check out the first lounge that we come across as well, just on a whim.
Okay. So yeah, you kind of make your way a little bit of a loop around the deck, and you're just sort of seeing who's about. The corridor itself is not too busy. You get the feeling maybe quite a few people who aren't working have been also sort of watching the memorial service, and you quite quickly come to one of the lounges, and door opens as you approach, and looking in, you can see it's about 3 or 4 people inside who it looks like they've been sort of gathered in here to watch the event, and just sort of quiet discussions being had. This isn't like a sort of 10 forward size lounge. This one is kind of in TNG sort of sizes. It's about the size of Picard's quarters, if you know what I mean.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So there's, it's got a little bit of capacity in here because it's sort of like, for this deck, this is one of the lounges kind of thing. So there's room for like, you could comfortably fit sort of 20, 30 people in here at a push sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But I'd say there's 4 or 5 people kind of sat. Well, 1 or 2 of them sat alone, maybe just sort of with their thoughts, or there's a guy reading off of just sort of reading quietly, and a couple of people just having a quiet discussion. Yeah, replicators are in here. People seem to have not alcoholic drinks, but it's allowed. It's got a kind of, I don't want to say it's got like a kind of coffee shop kind of feel to it. It doesn't. But this is sort of 11 o'clock in the morning, so that nobody's in here. Nobody's in here boozing at this point. Okay.
The mood's quite solemn. I'm not going to break that.
I don't think it's not like depressive solemn. It's kind of. Because part of the idea of, I think, of the memorial services is also to kind of be a bit of an emotional kind of release. It's a funeral, essentially. Mm. So we're sort of in the, I don't want to say wake portion of it, but we're in the post-service kind of thing where people are maybe getting like some refreshments and things and such, and yeah.
Well, we'll I think Johnny turned to Bonge and say, I was thinking we might just check out a few of the lounges. As we were going around the decks today, we always end up going to 10 forward. And there's got to be another one that's got a good view. I don't know about this one. And he looks out to what kind of viewports and stuff are in this room.
I think this one. Yeah, I mean it's got viewports. It's not like a random cupboard sort of in the middle, which is one of those things I don't really think about, but like a lot of the quarters probably are kind of like there's no external view or anything. But this is on the outer edge of the deck. It's got viewports and that. They're not quite as big as the ones in 10 forward. Obviously, that's got prime placement on like the sort of rim of the disc, isn't it? And that. And but yeah, there's views out into space.
Okay. I think we'll just get a soft drink of some sort, and Johnny will go out to the viewport with Bunge and not regale necessarily, but go on about like the intricacies of like this is what makes a good view, and you can see parts of the ship coming in from the corner of your vision here. That's kind of, it takes away the splendor of space.
So are you not in favor of parts of the ship being in the view? Would you rather?
Yeah, he prefers an unobstructed view.
Okay, yeah. So maybe this is maybe the 100% why you're starting to realize why you always go to 10 forward here, because like maybe you hadn't put a lot of thought into it before, or you've just come up to this thing and you suddenly realize like, oh, well, I can see the curve going down there, and as you look over to the right, you can actually see the front of the nacelles just a little bit from the hang on, I'm trying to think, would you be able to, because you're on the upper half of the disc, really?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I don't think you'd be able to see the nacelles from where you are, but like, yeah, there's just a little bit you can see where the hull is not like falling backwards from you, it's falling forwards from you. That's the wrong term, but you know what I mean. As you look out of the viewport, the curve is still heading down towards the.
I know what you mean.
You know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is mostly just Johnny trying to like kill time, and it's, as I say, like the things that have been on his mind as he's been watching that dedication and everything. Like it's I don't know. It's got him struggling to think of ways to spend the day, so he's now just like focusing in on something. Whether Bunge, again, like if Bunge knows him well enough, maybe he could possibly even recognize that. But
I don't know if Bunge would. Like, you guys have been living together for a few weeks now, but in real terms, I mean, Bunge came aboard and like you met him on the 5th of January, and today is February the 17th. So really, it's only been kind of, you've known him maybe 6 weeks or so. I don't know if he's fully picked up on like all of the subtleness of like Johnny's character, especially if it's something that you're kind of, you would usually sort of keep to yourself, sort of thing.
Yeah. So I think then on that basis, Johnny is probably kind of just talking at him to some extent, and it is acknowledging what he's saying and everything, but isn't really allowing the conversation to shift off of views and anything else. Like he's kind of lost in that for now.
Keeping it superficial maybe a little bit, and
yeah.
I think Bond is sort of, he's not really picking up that you're sort of struggling. Struggling is not the right word, but you know what I mean. He's not going, "You okay, Johnny?" or anything like that. He's just sort of nodding along like, yeah, oh no, I see what you mean.
He's not empathetically tuned.
Yeah, I don't want to downplay it. Like, you guys are roommates, you do see a lot of each other and that and everything, but 6 weeks is not really a long time.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's the kind of deal where if Ireela was here, all of the signals would be going off. You'd know exactly what.
You'd immediately be like, oh yeah, Johnny is like a little bit more troubled than he's letting on, and he's keeping up a sort of he's keeping up a sort of superficial front of like, I'm gonna small talk my way through the day or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Bond is just like, yeah, no, cool, we're having a casual hang in this lounge that we don't normally go to, and he's just happy to be out of the house. I'll say you don't really recognise, recognise maybe isn't the other word, because the other people in the lounge would be people who also live on this deck. So maybe it's just people that you recognise in passing but have not talked to. I think knowing Johnny as we do know, that he would have given a bit of a quick sort of tactical look round, give everybody ocular pat down.
Oh yeah, of course.
Just feel like, who am I in here with? It's mostly ensigns and crewmen who are in here. I think there's nobody so high rank than you at the moment. There's a Tellarite with sciences colours on, who is reading from just sat by himself, kind of reading from a data pad. It doesn't really seem to be giving off any signs of like, hey, come engage me in conversation. Very much is like doing the usual kind of Tellarite frown of like, if they're not actively engaging you at the moment, they can be a little bit intimidating. The ones who are sort of chatting you don't really recognise them at all. in terms of like individual people, but like a quick glance at them shows that they're crewmen, so you do outrank them, and they are in ops red on their uniforms, so it could be they are, you're not sure. I mean, they're just not in your department. I guess finally in here there's a pair of engineering crewmen who are just at a table together. They've got a deck of cards out that seem to be playing a game with each other, just quietly in the corner.
Okay. Yeah, Johnny will have taken all of that in. And if they've finished their drinks while they've been chatting, Johnny will now be like, well, looks like we've finished up. Let's continue the tour. There's got to be a better view out there somewhere.
This is the quest for the day, is the quest for a better view. Okay. Yes, okay. Are you staying on this deck? Is it just the view that you're looking for? Johnny Conought in Lounge Quest.
Yeah, with a escalation perhaps of like, as it becomes more viable, starting to drink, and we'll see where it goes from there, and who we bump into and all the rest of it.
Yeah, okay.
You're basically having an Irish wake.
That's kind of what I was thinking, yeah.
Well, you're going on a pub crawl is what you're doing.
Combining the two things. I mean, we're not leaving the ship. Ostensibly, we're in one place.
Yeah. Oh, no, again, I'm not judging you. Do what you want. Okay. I think then, we'll probably cut back to our group of senior staff then. Still over on the Nelson. I think at this point, it's maybe been about an hour since the kind of culmination of the service. A lot of people have kind of dispersed a little bit, but there are still I think the gathering is still kind of happening, as in like the kind of formal service itself is over, but there's very much like a sort of kind of reception sort of vibe going on. I think as far as officers from the Tenzing go, Captain Collins is definitely still here, as well as Commander Carter. I think Commander T'Lyn very quickly gave her condolences to Captain Richards and beamed back to the Tenzing to continue her duties. Ray, Murphy, and Ireela, how would we find you? What would your move be at this point?
I'd imagine Murphy would show face for a little while and then politely retreat to go drink elsewhere. Mm-hmm. Especially with how she's feeling about that it could have been them. It's like,
This is a solo drinking thing then? Is that's the mood? Or...
No, she's just like wants to give the Nelson crew their space as well. I think it's not about her and her feelings and how her friends and stuff. It's their friends, so she doesn't want to intrude.
I think while you're, like you said, you're showing your face up for a little bit, you are approached by your kind of opposite number on the Nelson, Lieutenant Commander Garcia, who's their chief of security. Gives you sort of a nod and like, Murphy, good to see you.
Garcia? I know asking how you're doing is a stupid question, but how are you doing?
Tough question. Still picking up the pieces, I suppose.
I hope that's whiskey that's in your drink.
No, but wouldn't go amiss.
Murphy's gonna like crack open like a pocket in her, and she's like, and just offer him a little top up. Like,
he doesn't turn you down. He sort of looks around, and puts his drink forward as he. So just the idea that you brought a hip flask to the funeral with you.
Oh yeah, it's a funeral. She's not going anywhere without something.
Fair enough. Sort of raises his drink in thanks. Takes a swig. That's got a bit of a kick. Thanks. And thanks for coming. I know a lot of us are still having trouble processing everything. Today's a lot.
Yeah. We're all here, though. Supporting you guys. If you need any of my people, let me know.
Thanks. I really appreciate that. A lot of my people were injured in the incident. Most of them are heading back to Deep Space 3 on the Auckland, so we're going to be a little short-handed around here. Anything to help us keep our spirits up is all good with me. He looks down at the drink again. Spirits up. Takes another swig.
Yeah. Just make sure everybody knows that we're here for them.
That means a lot. Thanks. Like the captain said, we're all Starfleet. Might have been a tough week, but we'll get there in the end. I think he finishes the remains of his drink at this point. Thanks again, Murphy. Really.
Alright.
I think you each drift away to speak to other people. So, as far as Dr. Ireela then, what would your move be after the service finished?
I think as soon as we got into the more social part, Ireela would be working. She's keeping an eye on people. She's walking round, making sure that the grief and pain doesn't twist into frustration or lashing out.
Yeah. As I said before, people, this isn't going to be everybody's first memorial service, so you're not picking up too much in the way of kind of like misplaced anger or anything like that. I'm not saying people aren't still upset. I mean, understandably, obviously, there's huge loss and everything.
Yeah.
But I think there's something of a power to like a good memorial service, a funeral, whatever else you want to call it. That I think people can kind of put a lot of their feelings into it in sort of a more healthy way. I know, speaking from my own experience, that I've definitely seen funerals where people have been incredibly upset and crying and everything during, and a walk out, and it's sort of like a bit of a kind of new dawn sort of thing, where they're smiling and thanking people for coming and such. Obviously, still holding on to a lot of feelings internally and everything, but it sort of it serves as a bit of a kind of marker, a kind of saying goodbye and then kind of moving forward sort of moment.
Yeah.
And I think for like a lot of the people on the Nelson here, it's definitely performing that function as a kind of cathartic sort of release of maybe the worst of their kind of pent-up feelings of grief and such. Yeah. I think as you walk around, there's definitely some people who are taking it harder than others. You would, I don't think, know them personally, because obviously there's a different ship and everything, so it's nobody that you've really met before.
Is the engineer that tried to get discharged too early here?
I don't know. It's been a couple of days since that interaction that we last saw between Ireela and him, but I think really this is up to you, whether you would have discharged him, allowed him to come.
I think he would be out. He might not be out if it wasn't for the service.
Right, okay.
But I'm pretty sure there would be no keeping him in sickbay.
Yeah.
With the service happening.
Yeah, okay. I think it takes you a little bit of time to spot him. But then you do see him kind of chatting quietly in a corner with one or two of the other engineering crew. I'd say the first impression you get really is that this whole group doesn't really look like they're planning on sticking around for much of this sort of post-service reception. As I said, we're still in the hangar bay, but this is where this is taking place. There isn't like a separate reception space or anything. But yeah, they're kind of giving off vibes of like, well, we're getting ready to head out, if that makes sense. At least that's the kind of, from body language and that, you see him chatting and that, and they're sort of heading towards an exit. Him and the other engineers.
Ireela probably will not interrupt.
Okay.
She just wanted to get close enough and with a clear enough line of sight to work out which emotions belong to who in the group.
Okay. Can I get an insight security check from you then, please? I think only difficulty 1, because, I mean, he's not really guarding his emotions at all. That is if you're kind of focusing on yoits. I think as well, while you've been kind of walking around with the specific intent of gauging people's emotions, you've sort of opened yourself up, so you've got a good kind of general feel of the room, so you're able to focus a little better.
Okay, good. So that's 2 successes.
Excellent. Okay, so if somebody wants to add a point of momentum, I think we're starting at 0 here because it's been a couple of days.
Yeah, it's been a couple of days.
Yeah. So we're at 1 point of momentum. Okay, so as you sort of get within range of this small group of engineers, the whole group has a kind of feeling that they're not quite let things go is the wrong phrasing on that, but they're not quite dealing with things maybe as good as some people are. They are still feeling a little surly, a little bit kind of, they've got feelings and they don't know where to put them, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And him especially, you get the feeling he's kind of holding on to, you get like a feeling of guilt from him, I think would be the way to describe that.
Mm-hmm. Well, that would fit with before.
Yeah, and I'd say it's not like they're not like ranting or raving or anything. They're talking quietly to each other and you see some sort of shaking of heads and things, and there's hands on shoulders sometimes. It's very much a group that if you didn't have your empathic powers, it wouldn't look out of place in an event like this. You're getting the feeling that this group in general, the engineers, aren't dealing with things so well.
There's nothing that Ireela can do at the moment that would help.
Sure, yeah.
If she catches his eye, she'll give him a nod. Otherwise, she'll just carry on.
I think he's not really looking around the gathering so much. I think as you kind of keep an eye, just a sort of passing look at them as you carry on, the it sort of finishes the conversation, and one of the other engineers kind of claps him on the shoulder as like a quite a reassuring thing, and he heads towards the exit, and you lose track of him at that point. I think then if you're going to kind of continue to sort of move through the crowd, you definitely pick up that there's some people who are dealing with things better than others, as I've said, but I mean, it's the nature of the thing. Some people have lost people who were closer to them than others did, but nothing feels dangerously out of place, I would say, as you move through the crowd, but it's quite an emotionally charged situation, event in general.
Mm-hmm.
So finally, how about Commander Rai? What was Rai's move at the end of the service?
Rai would do a similar thing to Murphy, stick around for a little while, show face, and then I think he would leave the service and he'd want to do something to take his mind away from it.
Right.
Just kind of, as much as he wasn't feeling a lot of outward emotion during the service, he wants to do something to kind of reset so he can focus back on his duties when time allows. So rather than go down to any of the drinking spots on the ship, I think he would go down to the holodeck.
Okay, so beaming back to the Tenzing for this.
Beaming back to the Tenzing? Yep.
Yeah. I think in the repairs of the Nelson, that you've managed in the last few days to get one transporter room back up to operation. So it's got it's a fairly high traffic amount, really. So I don't think you're the only person on the pad going over there when you step on it, but sort of get some respectful nods from various people who are going back and forth as you head onto it. And you find yourself back on the Tenzing and headed for a holodeck.
He's going to load up a program he's been meaning to try out for a while.
Mm-hmm.
He likes to try a lot of things that are not, I wouldn't say prized in Earth's history, but things that Earth's history is kind of replete with when he's looked back to it, because he spent quite a bit of time there in his first host before the accident in the Andes, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the programs he wants to try out is an archery program.
Sure. Yeah.
He can't remember the exact name of it. He knows he's seen it. He hasn't tried it previously, so he's flicking through, and eventually he finds the name of this program on the display. And essentially, from what he's checked out on the description of this program, it is a typical kind of English woodland, not too heavily canopied, and essentially it's a target course. You make your way through the woodland. There are inflatable targets in trees, and you just try and rack up as many bullseyes as you can on each of the inflatable targets using good old bow and arrow.
Okay, so yeah, you scroll down until you've got a vague idea. You remember which sort of database you found it in as you're going through the holodeck controls, and you load up what is called the Sherwood Archery/Parkour Challenge.
I like it.
And
Archery/Parkour.
Yep.
Program complete. Enter when ready.
So yeah, you step in and you find yourself in a woodland, I think, with a kind of early evening kind of golden hour kind of lighting. It's sort of there's light kind of trickling through the trees, the sounds of birds, and it's not like middle of the day sunshine shining down. It's kind of quite a picturesque woodland scene. As you step in, fading in front of you on a stand is a selection of different types of bows. There is anything from like a very simple kind of medieval sort of short bow to a long bow to a crossbow to like a compound like carbon fiber bow to
a 21st century recurve bow
to a
with the target on it with the reticle on it.
There's even a laser bow on there, which you think about and think, well, that's probably not in keeping with the setting, but it's there if you want to try it.
Yeah. Ray's looking at it thinking, that's going to feel like a bit of a cheat.
Yeah.
So Ray's looking up and down, and he goes with a traditional longbow.
Okay, as you pick up the bow, the rack disappears, and as you sort of look up, you can see a target appears a fair distance away from you, sort of in between all these sort of trees and shrubs and things, and it's kind of on like a little rocky outcropping, some distance away.
Can I make out the shape of the target, what it's meant to look like?
Circular.
Circular. So it's not an animal target.
This is a regular target to begin with.
Regular bullseye type target. Okay, cool. Right. So I've got the bow. Mm-hmm. Do I have the arrows?
Yeah, I think when you pick it up, I forgot to mention arrows. There's arrows too. Sure. Yeah. Okay. Fine if you want to make it easy.
Yeah, just shoot an arrow of absolute nothing.
Yeah, you could have picked the laser bow, but you didn't.
Yeah. Well, that's just cheating, really, isn't it? So the quiver is on my hip.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at the target and I reach to pull an arrow out. I put it in, I draw the string back, and what I'm doing is I'm slightly curving the bow. It's not straight. I'm curving it slightly to my right because the bow's in my left hand.
Mm-hmm.
I pull back and take a deep breath. I hold it in, and I let the arrow loose.
Okay. A second before you let it loose, there is a commotion among the trees about halfway between where you are and the target, and a group of about 3 or 4 variously attired outlaws, I want to say, but like sort of I don't know, with a kind of heroic bearing to them, are suddenly brawling with a group of 3 or 4 what looks like men in kind of armor, like chainmail, and like they're wearing tabards with with some kind of seal, royal seal on the front. And you just hear from that distance, you're a little distance away. You just hear, "Ha ha! How about you? And there's a sword fight happening between you and the target. You can still see the target above this fray happening, but it's this is a little bit of a distraction in between you and the target.
Right. Okay. So, have I not let? So I'm guessing I've paused and not let the arrow go.
You've taken your breath. You haven't actually released the arrow yet. One of the group shouts to you, "Help us, Commander Rai! We must show the Sheriff of Nottingham's men that their influence does not hold sway within these woods."
Okay, Ray's going to pause for a second. He's going to lower the bow and he's going to look, and he's going to think, have I loaded the wrong program? This isn't a Barclay special, is it?
Help us, man! Help us!
Not what I had in mind, but okay. So, I put the arrow back in the quiver, and I dash towards this melee that's going on.
Sure.
I don't run right up to them. I get to maybe about 20 feet from them, and I pull the arrow back out and I load it into the bow.
Sure.
And I'm going to take a pot shot at one of the assailants that isn't on the side of the outlaws.
Okay, so technically this is our first combat of 2nd edition Star Trek Adventures.
Oh wow!
So an auspicious start. Can I get a control security check from you, please?
Nope.
Difficulty 2. I believe for Ray we're looking for 12 or under for this.
There we go. 15 and 15.
Okay. So that's 2 failures. So yeah, you've maybe the adrenaline has caught you a little bit here. You're a little bit too close for this type of bow. As you fire it, it goes into the ground between the legs of your target. Everybody in front of you disappears, and the target on the rocky outcropping flashes red, and the words "miss" appear above it in bright red letters.
You got to be kidding me! But there was. This is a Barclay special, it has to be.
The target disappears, and you hear the sound of another one coming in. A similar distance to where you first started, again, through the trees in a different angle now. This one between 2 leaning trees that are kind of crossed over each other in like an X.
Mm-hmm. How far away is it?
Ooh, 100 feet.
It's a long shot.
It's competition distance. There we go.
Okay.
Whatever that is.
So I think to myself, focus on the target. If people turn up, just ignore them, Ray. I put another arrow in. This time I keep the bow straight. Pull the drawstring to my face. Deep breath.
A unicorn walks from between the trees just before you let go of the arrow. Do you still let go of the arrow? It's not blocking your shot.
Not blocking the shot. It's not in the flight. It's not in the flight path.
It's in your sight line, but it's not in the flight path between you and the target.
I'm just going to let the arrow go.
Okay, can I get a difficulty 2?
In the same instance, I'm going to go, what?
I get a difficulty 2 control security check from you then, please.
Okay. 12 and 3.
That is your 2 successes. So you hit the target, and green letters appear. The unicorn disappears, and green letters appear above it that says 20 points. You didn't quite get a bullseye. You're in the yellow, I think.
Ray's like, yes, there's a hit, but what is going on with all these random appearances? Computer, arch.
Just a few feet behind you, the arch and exit door to the holodeck reappear.
Computer, give me the full details of this program.
The program's full description, which you had neglected to read before entering the holodeck, begins to scroll past on the Archer's view screen. What jumps out to you, though, is the full description, which reads, an archery training program incorporating fantasy and pseudo-realistic folklore elements set within a fictionalized version of Sherwood Forest, Earth.
Maybe I should have paid attention to the word Sherwood in the title. Computer, is there a version of this program that focuses on just the archery competition elements without the random appearances of fantasy and historical characters and distractions?
Affirmative.
Okay. Computer, load that program.
Working.
The environment around you briefly flickers as the computer loads the new program, and you find yourself pretty much where you were. You are in the forest still, but presumably the new program.
Right, let's try this one. Computer, indicate the first target, please.
First target appears on the rock.
How far away is the rock?
70 meters.
70 meters, okay. That's more like it. So, Ray, once again, goes in, pulls out an arrow. He's going to adjust his stance ever so slightly and move a couple of paces to his right.
Mm-hmm.
Brings the bow up, pulls the drawstring back. Deep breath. Lets it go.
Okay. No signs of any distractions, so can I get another difficulty 2 control security check from you then, please?
2 and 2.
2 and 2, or so close to So close to the crits there.
Critical.
Yeah, it's not one of your focuses though, archery, is it? It's just an interest.
No,
so...
it's not. This is a new thing for Ray.
Yeah.
He knows about archery. He knows how to handle this weapon, but he's never been in a situation to call for it. So
I was only saying because if it was one of your focuses, then that would have increased your critical range. But
that'd be a bullseye maybe.
Yeah, but no, you got 2 successes, so pretty good shot. But I think you're right on the edge of the middle section.
Yeah.
At 70 meters, it's a pretty good shot for you.
Yeah, we're in the middle, so yeah. Okay, let's look for the next one. Then Ray starts looking around, walking around in the woodland. He's looking up into the trees to see if there's any hooked up high. He's looking at the ground. He's looking. Basically, he's looking for targets, but he is now just kind of enjoying the walk through the woodland as well.
I think safe to say then. You've essentially what you've done is turned off all of the fun elements of this program. I know the archery is fun, but you've turned off you've turned off my bullshit, and
you lost me at unicorn, and I'm like, hang on. I mean, I'm not saying Ray would never do the fancy one again, but at this point, he just wants to, do something which is very simple.
You've neatly sidestepped my bullshit, though.
Yeah, that was quite a sidestep. I'm proud of myself.
So you have a nice walk in the woods with occasional archery happening, but no more Robin Hood and his men showing up, or unicorns, or I don't know, maybe like some kind of 2-headed troll or something would have come at some point. And
so I think Ray will just go through and take down however many targets there are in total for this session, and that'll be his kind of back down to, well, not down to Earth because we're on a spaceship, but
that's your cooldown.
That's his cooldown. Yeah, his come down back to being level-headed and focused on the mission. Yeah.
Okay. Let's cut back to Johnny. So, Johnny, I think at this point you're a couple of lounges in, and maybe you switch to alcohol. It's the afternoon now. It's maybe it's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Let's say then. So you and Bond have kind of you've done a little bit of a tour. You found some nice places, I think. But as you've started having a couple of drinks of alcohol, you get the little itch in the back of your head of like, I kind of just want to sit at my familiar table, And so I think maybe not even consciously, you just kind of wind up down in 10 forward after a bit. You're used to the atmosphere in there, and you as I say, you found some nice places. You said hi to some people that you've recognised and that along the way. But you and Bond have ended up at your familiar table, and we'll cut back in just as your usual bartender Pringle puts a pair of drinks in front of the two of you.
Oh, much appreciated, Pringle. Oh, how's the day going?
It's a bit of an odd one. We've been quite busy, but the mood is understandably a little bit off. But people are in.
That's fair.
I think you and Bond are kind of sat there for a moment. You're kind of taking in the surroundings, and your comm badge bips.
Sullivan to Conought.
Oh, Conought here.
How's it going?
Oh, well, not great today, I guess. I mean...
Yeah.
You know what's happening? You?
Yeah, not too bad. We've just had some new orders come through, so I wanted to check in and say hi before my ship leaves. I feel like it's been a while.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I've been kind of caught up in duties. You know me. But yeah, no, I'm doing all right. I mean, Bonge is here with me.
Hey.
Hi, Bonge. What are you guys up to?
Well, we were just, we tried out a bunch of different lounges around the ship. I'll be real with you. Nothing beats 10 forward.
Ah, having a bit of a bar crawl, huh?
Well, a little bit. Taking in views. Trying to, I don't know, distract myself a little bit. And Johnny looks at Bonge, because he's being quite real here. And he hasn't been very real so far.
I don't think Bond really picked up a new comment there. Bond is like drinking at this point, like got his drink to his mouth and he's kind of looking around. He's trying not to like earwig, which is tough for a Ferengi.
So yeah, just getting on with the day. I mean, we've got a day off. How about you right now? What's that about orders?
Yeah, Captain Conought has just told us to prep for deployment soon. Apparently we're going to be ferrying a bunch of the wounded crew from the Nelson back through the gateway to Deep Space 3. Looks like we're gonna be gone for a week or two, I reckon.
Oh, well, that's kind of a shame. Who knows what you might miss out on?
What are you gonna do? Explore the whole cluster while I'm away?
Well, we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Just remember to leave some mysteries for the rest of us, huh? And have you strutting around taking credit for the whole expedition.
Hey, you know me, it's all about stuff. Like, we're all in this together. I'll make sure to take some good data and send it back. Don't you worry.
I look forward to your postcard then. You want anything from Deep Space 3 while I'm there?
No, not me. Bonge, did you want anything from Deep Space 3? More of that? I hate to say it, but more of that Sluggo stuff?
I always need more Sluggo Cola. Sullivan, if you can get me another case of Sluggo Cola.
Oh, sure. Well, that stuff is really grim, Bonge, but you got it. Well, like I said, I just wanted to check in with you before we headed out, as I think it's going to be a while. Can't see Conought taking any chances with the gateway crossing after last time.
Well, no, it's been dangerous enough as it is.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you know when we make it back in one piece, I guess.
Well, best of luck. I hope that the trip is quick and Deep Space 3 treats you well.
Cheers. Take care, both of you.
And yeah, she signs off. I think at this point, I kind of want to sort of fade out on the remainder of this day. Suffice to say, I think Johnny, you and Bonge, you know, you're comfortable in 10 forward now for the afternoon. You maybe have a meal there as well. You know, I don't think this is a proper. I mean, it's safe to say this isn't like a proper like Deep Space 3 style binge drinking, like absolutely blasted kind of afternoon for you. So yeah, the pair of you would kind of make it back to your quarters in sort of in the evening time, and yeah. As far as the sort of the senior staff go, I think the reception winds down kind of after an hour or so, and whether you stay till the end or not it's totally up to you. But yeah, suffice to say that you all kind of make it back to the Tenzing in short order.
Mm.
I think I want to kind of fade in on the next morning then. So the Auckland has departed, taking with it 400 of the remaining 500 crew of the Nelson. That's the most grievously injured, and I think a fair number whose sort of jobs aren't really doable on a stationary remains of a starship, leaving just a kind of 100-person skeleton crew aboard the Nelson itself. Lieutenant Commander Garcia has been left in charge of the Nelson, so yeah, it's kind of become a sort of stationary platform at the moment that the Tenzing can sort of operate around while they're in this system. Almost like a kind of first outpost in the cluster, really, for Starfleet, except not maybe the kind that they would have chosen. But I want to open on a meeting, I think, in the science department.
Oh, hello.
So it's kind of like a morning meeting, I guess. Like all the different kind of heads of different things in science are kind of gathered in. I don't know, we haven't really got like a sort of science control center like the tactical one has, but I guess you've just booked out a conference room somewhere.
Yeah, I'd have thought so.
Yeah.
It won't be the conference room on the bridge. It'll probably be one that's closer to stellar cartography.
Yeah, you can find one. I mean, it's like the whole ship's like a convention center, really, isn't it? So there's plenty of like. Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. You're heading the meeting, but there's other members of your team are there. Mm-hmm. Lieutenant Commander Fell, who we haven't seen this season, but popped up a few times in season 1, who's head of biosciences. Mm-hmm. Lieutenant Che, who's head of astrometrics, is there. Lieutenant Ivanka from material sciences. You know, it's just generally like there's about 10 or 15 people in the meeting. You've got a pretty big department on the ship, really, but we've only kind of we've hit a few people as the series has happened, but like, you know, you've got a lot of people working under you, really. This is kind of a science ship. I guess we'll join as Lieutenant Che is sort of giving a bit of a presentation. He's head of astrometrics. They've completed their evaluation of the star and the planets, and they're sort of ready to present their findings to you.
Because they were mapping in the last episode where we were doing stuff, they were mapping out the region of space we were in using the planet as a reference point.
They were, yes.
That's right, yeah. Okay, Che, show us what you found.
Che kind of clears his throat and presses a button on the table's control panel, and a holographic representation of the star system appears on the conference room's main view screen. Well, here we are, BC 517. 5 planets, 3 rocky, 2 gaseous, various asteroid belts, as you can see. Our scans of the star indicate that it's been very disturbed by the presence of the barrier storm so close. It's only a couple of AU from the edge of the system's Oort cloud. The subspace disturbances have agitated the star's surface, leading to this constant swirl of sunspots that you can see here, and the display kind of zooms in on the star for this, and you can see how sort of volatile the surface is. Comparison to Earth's sun, which is of comparable size, and press another key and there is a semi sort of real-time kind of view of Earth's sun appears next to it, which is notably more, it's the surface of the sun, so it's kind of roiling and everything, but the number of sunspots and kind of turbulent sort of patterns on it is hundreds of times less. Says this sunspot activity has led to this solar wind being orders of magnitude higher than it would normally be. The solar wind has not only stripped the planets 2 and 3 of their atmospheres, but we estimate that the amount of mass lost from the star is going to shorten its estimated lifespan by about half if the disturbances continue. The view zooms out a little bit again so that the planets are visible. Planet A, Planet 1, however you want to codify it, Commander, is it's just a ball of rock. It's we don't think there's likely anything of interest there. Planets B and C are in the system's Goldilocks zone. They don't have an atmosphere anymore, we think, as a result of the increased solar wind, but possible that there's something to investigate on there. Commander Fell sort of leans in at the moment, says, well, hopefully it's something for biosciences to finally look at. All we've been doing since we left Space Dock is looking at each other's family photos. Although I would like to report some previously unknown organisms from those, Commander. There's a bit of chuckling around the table. This.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
It is a joke. People got some weird relatives. She sort of looks to Che and kind of gives him a carry on kind of thing. He kind of clears his throat again. Yes, so we recommend. We think Planet B, currently it's Class K planet, similar to Mars before it was terraformed. We think this is the most likely candidate for anything of interest. We think prior to the atmosphere being stripped, it potentially would have been a Class M world. The view on the viewer zooms out again. Planet D is the largest of the system's gas giants. It's acting somewhat of a bit of a radiation sink, protecting us out here on the outskirts from getting too much of the solar wind. And that leads us to Planet E, and it zooms out again. And it's a Class J planet, large, fairly run-of-the-mill gas giant. And as the view zooms in on the planet, it says, and there we are, in orbit.
Okay, comprehensive report, thank you, Che. Regarding the activity on the activity with the sun for the system, obviously you've spoken about the effects of the solar wind and the activity spikes compared to the sun in the Terran system. Based on the scans you've taken, is there any danger posed? Is there any possible danger that would be posed to the Tenzing as we traverse the system?
No, I think the navigational deflector should deal with it, the worst of it, and the hull should absorb anything else. But we might have to be a little bit careful with direct exposure in EV suits if we're planning a walk outside the ship. obviously out here on the outskirts, the repair crews have been out for a limited time, but yes, the ship should be fine, I think. The amount of high energy particles is higher in the inner system than it is here, but yes, no, the navigation deflector should deal with it.
Okay, that's good to know, so no immediate danger. At this point, my feeling is, if we're going to be... I mean, obviously we're going to be looking deeper into these planets. We know which ones are likely to be of more interest than others, thanks to your report. One question I have on this is, with the first of the two gas giants being, as you call it, radiation sink.
Yes, acting similar to how Jupiter does in the solar system.
I'm going to assume, for this moment, that it's not going to be an exact analogue of how Jupiter operates. So potentially we may have to take precautions in how we get further close-up scans of that particular planetary body.
Well, nothing's ever a one-to-one analog, Commander, but yes, that's. I just thought that would be a convenient reference point. We should, of course, take any precautions we can.
Potentially, when it comes to scanning that gas giant, we send out probes. We'll send out some Class A probes to scan that one, and if necessary, keep the Tenzing at a distance. But, like you say, it's quite far off in terms of the other planets around us, so we'll deal with that as we complete our tour of the system. Okay, thank you for your report, Shay. Very well put together. Thank you very much.
There's a smashing of applause around the table.
Bioscience is up next. Fel, what have you got for us?
Not a lot at the moment, really, until we start doing some planetary surveys and we start getting brought some samples. There's not a lot my team can really do. We've been kind of looking at the scans that have been done of this planet and its moons, just in case. You never know what you're going to find out here, but at the moment, nothing. So bring me something alive to look at, and I will have something to talk to you about.
Fair enough, Phil. What we'll do, once the Tenzing starts moving through the system, I'll see about setting up facility for your team to do deep space scans of the planetary bodies that go beyond what we've been able to do from this position, just in case there is anything of an organic nature out there that we can't pick up on from this distance. So once that's in place, I'll make sure your team are fully apprised.
Yeah, well, appreciate that. As always with us, though, field trips and stuff in sample containers is going to go a lot further. But yeah, I appreciate it.
Well, I agree. But given this is a brand new system, the first step should be to take as many external scans as we can before sending anybody down, especially when we don't have atmospheres on some of the more interesting planetary bodies. Obviously, I would love to let you guys have a chance of seeing stuff up close, but this is an unknown for every department, pretty much. So we'll start small, and then we'll take bigger steps as we go. But yes, I will make sure you get every opportunity.
Yeah, cheers. Appreciate it.
No problem, Phil. Metallurgy. Anything to report?
Nothing new to report, sir, but we mostly had our hands full dealing with the work over on the Nelson, and however, I have had time to run a few tests to see if the increased background radiation in the system's been having any bad effects on the Tenzing's hull. Thankfully, nothing as yet. So, yeah, that's pretty much what we've been at.
Understandable. We need to make sure the Tenzing is, doing okay against these conditions. I take it the logging of your findings from wreckage taken from the Nelson has been logged for Starfleet to look at in future?
Yes, sir. All in the computer.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Metallurgy. Audio analysis. I'm guessing you have nothing to report specifically at the moment. You're just listening out into the cosmos.
Pretty much, sir, yes. I mean, we've been spending a lot of time listening to the solar wind. It's got a slightly different timbre to that of many of the other systems we go to. But, yeah, still, that's more of a matter of personal taste, I guess. Yeah.
Understood, no problem. But if you pick up any whale song out there, you let me know straight away.
Of course, yes. Although if we're picking up any whale song, it's more likely there's been a breach down on deck 13. In which case, I'm sure you'll hear from Satish and Ops before you hear from me, sir. But right you are, sir. Never know what we're going to find out here. Seems we can't go anywhere in this galaxy without finding some new species of space whale. In which case, Commander Fell, I'll keep you in the loop as well. At which point, Lieutenant Commander Fell shoots Lieutenant Brave an appreciative pair of finger guns across the table.
Yeah. And Ray will just do a little finger gun back. Ray then stands up and says, okay, thank you everyone. We know what we're up to, so let's get back to it. Dismissed.
Alright, the meeting disperses.
As everyone leaves, I think there's a small collection of pads on the table which have got people's reports in. I start flicking through them and then taking notes from that to compile a main report that will go back to the captain later on.
So yeah, as you're going through them, I mean, the majority of this is made up with the sort of overview of the system.
Yeah.
And as you're kind of going through, you can't help but sort of be drawn to the recommendations of maybe checking out the second planet of the system as a promising first investigation target.
Planet B. As good a place to start as any, I suppose. Ray to Captain Collins.
Go ahead, Commander.
Just completed a meeting with the science departments, and stellar cartography have given us our first major point of interest.
That sounds promising. Do tell.
Currently described as Planet B, it's what we think was formerly a Class M planet. It's lost most of its atmosphere, but it's within the Goldilocks zone of the system, so it might be the safest port of call we head to first.
Yes. Certainly sounds like a promising target. I'll confer with Commander Tulin and our friends over on the Nelson, and we'll set a course. Convey my appreciation to your teams for their hard work. It's been a busy few days.
Aye, Captain. I'll report to the bridge as soon as I finish compiling the reports. Ray out.
Okay, so with that then, we will, I guess, fade out on this moment as the Tenzing now has a destination within the system. Planet B, the potentially once life-supporting planet, currently not looking quite so healthy, but further investigations will have to wait until you arrive at the planet, and we shall see what mysteries await you. Alright, that's going to do it for this episode. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time on Thursday, September the 12th for the next chapter of Frontier, and we hope you'll all join us for that. In the meantime, you can head to pretendingwithdice.com for links to all of our online presences, including our social media pages, Discord server, Ko-Fi page, merch store, and much, much more. So yeah, for now, that's our show. We hope you all enjoyed it. See you next time.